I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Let me explain. I made a YouTube video, my very first video on this channel. That video was my biggest success ever. It had 200 views and 20 subscribers in its first couple of hours. Now, you might be thinking, Zexcellent, hate to break it to you, but that's nothing. And yeah, compared to Jimmy Beast or PewDiePie, it is nothing. I already had videos that reached over 10,000 views. Why would I say that this was my first real successful video? Well, there's something I haven't told you yet. Out of just 200 views, 10 people took their time to write comments. Those 10 comments meant more than anything because to me, this showed that my content does resonate with people. So, PMX, NerdMC, Alimu, Stratus, Leaf, Thilda, and Cobra, At Risk, and Lucas, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your comments. They truly meant more than any other metric could ever have. So why is it then that I just stopped uploading? Every time I work on anything that actually starts succeeding, I start feeling this uncontrollable fear. Fear that leads to doubt, doubt that leads to procrastination, procrastination that leads me to feeling sick and tired. I'm sick of this cycle. I'm tired of never pushing through. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And here is what I'm going to do about it. One of our best friends, a couple, visited my wife and I a few weeks ago. Husband is a very good friend of mine, one of the only ones who's also a content creator. And I told him all about how I feel and where I think it all started. About 10 years ago, I had a business idea, becoming a self-employed personal trainer. Scary part was that it succeeded. But later, I tried expanding the business. I had this idea of an online training system. I started throwing money at the wall, subsequently slowly sacrificing my business that was working, only for everything to fail miserably. After almost a year of dragging myself through the floor, I, at last, started making money. And that was when everything imploded. I realized that I won't be able to do this online training business anymore because I deeply hated everything about it. Just thinking about it now makes my stomach turn. Thinking about the lost nights, the lost money, the rock bottom moments, and the feeling of letting my wife down, my whole family down. I knew that I had to quit. And so, in a few days, I did. Within a week, I got sick. So sick that it lasted for 4 weeks. I almost got hospitalized because my fever would not go below 39 Celsius for 9 days. Within 3 months, I developed several conditions I never previously experienced. And within half a year, my body, my strength, my physique, my immune system broke down so much that to this day, I still haven't fully recovered. This was my first true burnout. So yeah, back then, about 7 years ago, it feels like a handbrake was pulled within me. My friend, he's just the best. He listens to my story and then he says something remarkable. Think about a person who's in an abusive relationship, he says. Several studies show that there's an interesting pattern with a significant number of these people. Many who had an abusive parent, sibling, or friend in their childhood or teenage years tend to end up in an abusive relationship later. And the reason is actually quite simple. The abusive relationship is the one they know best. It feels familiar. And familiar, on a deep psychological level, is comforting. In your case, he continues, you had quit so many times that subconsciously that became the familiar pattern. And familiar is comforting. He was completely right. Upon reflecting, I've done that for the past 7 years. Ever since that day, I quit all of my YouTube ideas, all of my business ideas. I always had rational reasons, like not wanting to be part of the fitness industry, or like realizing that my previous style of YouTube videos were just bad, or that I'm simply in the wrong niche. But this time was different. This time, I made a video that I wanted. I made a video I thought had the potential to succeed. And the scary part was that it did. Therefore, it was time for me to quit again. And subconsciously, I did. Now you too know my story. You know why I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Let's talk about what I'm gonna do about it. Talking to my friend, I recalled a time when I was always tired. In my late teens, early 20s, I had this customer support desk cubicle job that I just hated. I always felt tired both physically and mentally. I was sitting the whole day, sitting during work, sometimes not even standing up once to move my legs because, I don't drink coffee, I don't smoke, I don't do any of that stuff. Sitting to and from work in the car. Sitting after work, playing video games because I was too tired to do anything else. One day my younger brother would invite me to the gym. He was a gym head for some time by then, and I accepted. That day, after the training, I felt great. Well, of course, a day later I felt all sorts of beaten up, but that's just the penalty I had to pay for not moving in ever. So I started sticking to a training routine. First 2 weeks were nothing special, but on the third week, something changed. I'm all warmed up and I'm just about to finish my first working set of dumbbell presses. As I come up from the bench, carefully loading the dumbbells onto my legs, I realized I'm no longer tired. Like all the energy reserves I had were now open and I'm ready for anything. But that day, I've learned something very important. That day I've learned that the gym will have to be a part of my everyday routine. A rule I've been breaking too much lately. I had to realize that this me quitting the gym is also just a behavior that goes back to that time of my first major failure. I enjoyed the gym so much that I started training my brothers and my friends. I started enjoying that so much that I became a personal trainer. I started then enjoying that so much that I wanted a business, an online business, out of all of that. But once that had failed, I came to kind of dislike it all. That is the pattern I'm repeating right now. And while I do think the world doesn't need me as a fitness influencer, that doesn't mean I don't need my own training for myself. Coincidentally, I talked to my brother who introduced me to the gym about this phenomenon. I told him how I just don't feel like going to the gym, and he said to me the very same thing. And I asked him, so what do you do about that? Very simply, he answered, well, I still go anyway. So yeah, the solution to feeling tired is rather simple. Go to the gym, or go running, or swimming, or hiking. Do any kind of exercise that you, number one, enjoy. Number two, that you can do for 4 to 6 times each week. And number three, that gets progressively harder each week. And you will feel rejuvenated. We simply don't move enough with our normal lifestyles to get proper exercise in. Don't skip this step like I did. You'll thank me later. And just a quick tangent, if you're unsure of what activity to try because you've never done anything, then I wholeheartedly suggest the gym. And not just because I'm talking home, it's genuinely the most convenient facility to get in the most optimal single-player exercise routine, training all your muscles. And to give practical gym advice, since that is my forte, it's all rather simple. Number one, stick to a routine that trains every muscle part twice each week. So like upper lower rest, rest. Number two, learn to calculate your TDEE, literally Google Tango Delta Echo Echo calculator. Number three, learn about macros. Number four, start counting your macros, but not obsessively. Leave like a 200 calorie error margin and eyeball what you can't measure. Number 5, make it all a game. Like you're a character and these are your dailies to complete and these are your stats you're like growing now. And that's basically it. And I can know this is the cheesiest line of them all, but I'm just going to say it. Just do it. Don't over obsess with like what's the best training routine or split or what. No. Stick to your training routine until you understand things better. Stick to your macros for at least 6 weeks, then adjust. And yeah, don't buy expensive gym gear. Just use your warm t-shirts, shorts, and shoes that you don't use anywhere else. And don't use fitness trackers or sleep trackers. Like if you already have these, then fine. But I still didn't have any of this stuff. I'm just fine without them. The only 2 things you should track is how much you weigh each day, preferably measure yourself each morning, and how much weight you use on each exercise. And that's literally it. Don't think you can't do this gym stuff because you don't have, I don't know, $10,000 worth of gym gear. No, use whatever you have and forget the rest. That's it. You've got all that? Great. Let's move on before I really become a fitness influencer. Let's tackle the other part now, feeling sick. I've watched a podcast on Huberman Lab with Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett on how to understand emotions. She's a leading researcher on emotions, and there's a really interesting part in their conversation. Dr. Feldman Barrett talks about her daughter, how she went to visit her in New Zealand, if I recall correctly. Well, the gist of it is that by the time the daughter got there, she was feeling absolutely crappy, grudgy, grumpy, all of those adjectives. Dr. Feldman Barrett then gave her daughter ibuprofen, fed her a meal, had her sleep, she slept like 6 more hours, and then she was fine. Her daughter then goes on and says something remarkable that Dr. Feldman Barrett now uses in her book as an expression. I think I've gotten the emotional flu. Emotional flu. When I listened to the podcast, it just made perfect sense. Life doesn't always have logical solutions. Sometimes we just have the emotional flu. And everything just seems bad. I definitely was in my head a bit too much these past few weeks. We had visitors, friends and family from home for almost 4 weeks or 5 weeks in a row. So now I should say we feel a bit homesick-ish. Then I started second guessing myself on my YouTube videos. But worse, I started hating my 2 previous videos, especially the second one, despite it obviously resonating with people. I don't know, I still kind of dislike it. I think it turned out bad, and I can't even really pinpoint as to why I feel this way. I also had an old friend of mine die a couple of weeks back. I wasn't sleeping well for these and other reasons for the past 2-ish months. As I said, I was skipping the gym. So all of that and a bunch of other things caused a bunch of emotions really clogging up. In other words, I've got the emotional flu. And the solution? Well, there's no one-size-fits-all solution here, because when you feel this way, it is always caused by multiple emotions. Some emotions you have to fight. Some emotions you have to let go. Some emotions you have to live to their fullest until they eventually fade away. And some emotions you have to hold on to and fuel. The tricky part is sometimes you feel like frustration or depression is a bad emotion, but that could be the driver that separates you from your success. One thing that can really help with all of this, by the way, is journaling. Like literally take a pen and write down what you are feeling, like everything. If you do that, what you will find out really quick is that these base emotions like sadness or frustration or depression are not inherently necessarily bad. You might need to hold on to them when you, let's say, have a workplace you don't really like and want to change. Holding on to your frustration will aid you in that quest, but acting frustrated all the time will not. Accept the strength of frustration, not its control. I know all of this sounds a bit complicated, but let me give you my example. Right now, I'm holding on to my frustration when it comes to being alone and working on my YouTube videos. I use that frustration as strength to change my situation, to really double down on YouTube and hopefully one day have the option to go full-time on content creation if I want to. But when I'm with my wife I never act frustrated, or well, I do my best not to, and instead communicate my feelings very clearly. And lately I'm trying to make sure I'm also rewarding myself for when I really don't feel like working, but I still do the work. I still show up and I still do the hard task. I still need to be better at this, but I feel like it's getting there. If I don't feel like starting something, I'll start anyway and do the thing for 5 minutes to get into the flow. If something overly frustrates me and I can't get into the flow, I'll start organizing stuff, because usually that's what the problem is. There's more to say, but I really don't want to drag this video out too long, so if you have questions, do ask them in the comments and I can hopefully answer them in a future video. For now, think about what I said and go create something.